Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David Snyder checking in with you. Welcome to Decoding the Face, how to read emotions and personality at a glance. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the art and science. And there is, as time goes on, becoming more and more science available that supports this idea that certain psychological, emotional, and behavioral characteristics can be, in fact, seen in the markings of the face. A couple of things before we get into the administrative component. First of all, I know you're all going to have questions, and I love questions. Anybody who's ever been in a class with me for real knows I love questions. But the more questions I answer, the more rabbits we chase, or the squirrels we chase. So a couple of things. First, administratively, if you want to get the most out of this webinar, you don't have to believe. Belief is optional. You don't have to believe anything that I'm about to share with you, teach you, talk to you about. All I want you to do is take the information, go out into the world, and actually put it to the test and see if these things are true in your experience. Now, keep in mind that for every principle or a trait I give you, there will be an exception to the rule. Remember that when we're looking at systems of behavior, systems of personality, systems of emotional profiling, it's not the exceptions that we need to focus on first. We need to look at patterns. We need to look at how does this pattern keep recurring the majority of the time? And once we have a very good idea of the patterns that we're looking with, now we have the bandwidth to sort for and process the exceptions. Okay, so for those of you with an NLP background, we're using a meta program known as sorting for sameness, then difference, right? Now, there's a lot of people out there who don't use that particular approach to parsing reality. They sort for differences. And if they find anything different from what their experience is, they invalidate the response. I'm going to suggest that that's not the best filter for the information that I'm going to teach you right away. So if we can agree with that and move forward, then you're going to get the most out of tonight's webinar. Tonight's webinar does have an offer attached to it. I'll be right up front with you about that. There's always an offer connected to every single class that we teach, but this is a class. Because this is a class, I am going to expect you as the students to fulfill your end of the deal. And that's very, very simple. I'm going to teach you as much as I can in the time that we have. I'm going to go as far into the material as this medium will allow, and I will point you in the direction of where to go to take your skills to the next level. Is that fair? That's part one. Is if you feel that's fair, then type that's fair in the chat. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Now, part two of that, you're here as a student, right? So your job as the student is to be as participatory in this experience as possible. The way that you get the most from these classes is by being interactive. If I give you a drill or a skill to do and perform, do your best to safely perform that exercise. This is a face reading webinar, so there won't be a whole lot of like altered state work or overt trance work or anything like that. Other classes that I do, there's quite a bit. And so it's always important that if you're going to participate in the altered state, eyes closed portions of my other webinars, that you actually do it in a way that's safe. Okay. That being said, let's just make sure that we get some basic administrative stuff out of the way. Usually I try to pop on like a half hour, 20 minutes before the actual webinar starts to kind of give you what I call the pre-game warm-up, right? Which is to get all these administrative things out of the way so we can get the most out of the training tonight. So first and foremost, if you budgeted 90 minutes for this webinar, you might want to rethink your scheduling, okay? First and foremost, our webinars tend to run long. So don't be surprised if we start hitting 2.5, 3 hours, depending on where we're going with the content. And the question becomes, well, okay, David, why does the webinar have to be so long? It doesn't have to be so long. It's long because we divide our webinars up into 3 parts. The first part of our webinar is what we call the foundations phase. This is where we lay the foundations and the principles and the introductory skill sets and drills that you're going to need for part 3 of the webinar. Part 3 of the webinar is what we call the applications phase. What's that mean? Part 3 is where we take all the things that we taught you in part 1 and we customize the content of the training to the exact applications that you as a group want to learn most about. Right? I always come in with probably for a 3 or 4 hour webinar, I probably have 5 or 6 days worth of material that I could teach you. Okay. And so phase 1, foundations. Phase 2, next steps. We're going to go through the offers and the programs for taking your skills to this level of certified practitioner, home study, whatever. That's what phase 2 is about. So you're going to want to be here for phase 2 because there's a lot of cool things that we talk about in phase 2. And that sets the stage for phase 3. Phase 3 is where we pick up what we did in phase 1. We ask you specifically what topics you as a group want to drill down on. And we cover those and drill you on those for the next half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, however long part 3 of the webinar is. I'm not married to how long that part of the webinar goes. I try to get through phases 1 and 2 as quickly as possible so we can get on to your class, right? And that's the whole important thing to remember is this isn't David's class, even though I'm teaching it and I'm guiding you through it. This is your class. And so you are going to get out of it what you put into it. I'm a teacher that thrives on a lot of interactiveness, right? So that being said, how many of you, by show of hands, are brand new to Planet David? This is your first time webinar with us. Go ahead and type me in the chat if that's you. Okay, good. Excellent. If you're a veteran of Planet David, type in your name, how long you've been in Planet David, and where you're checking in from. For those of you who are brand new to Planet David, go ahead and type your name and where you're checking in from as well. And for my veterans, I have a special job. You're my teaching assistants tonight. If you see a question come up in the chat that I don't answer, or because it's going to draw me away from the content of tonight's webinar, but you have experience answering it using our technologies, by all means, reach out to that person in a way that won't distract them and go ahead and answer that and tell them your experience, right? Everybody expects me as the teacher and the guy running the webinar to say, hey, our stuff will fix everything, right? You expect me to say that, right? It's the people on the webinar right next to you who have been using the material for years and years and years that are the ones that have actually tested this for you, right? So between them and me, we're going to take you as far as we can in the time that we have and show you how to take it to the next level, right? That being said, tonight's class will cover some things like understanding personality traits based on facial cues. I'm going to actually teach you some things that I've taught in other webinars, but I'm also going to show you, I'm going to pull the kind of curtain aside and show you a few more ways that traits can combine and stack to create more complicated personality traits. We're going to teach, and when you have these skills, you're going to be able to gain the upper hand in communication, persuasion, and most types of relationships, whether it's a business relationship, a social relationship, a romantic relationship, a platonic relationship, for that matter. You're going to teach you more about how to look at somebody and know if they're going to be more or less sexually or romantically compatible with you, and a whole lot more. Face reading has changed the course of my life. I feel very honored to be able to carry this lineage forward into the future, and I'm excited to be sharing these things with you. That being said, let me just point out, like I started with the beginning of this webinar, belief is not necessary for anything that we're going to teach you. I don't ask you to believe anything that I'm teaching you. What I ask you to do is just go ahead and take the information, go out and test it. If it works for you, keep it. If it doesn't work for you, find something that does. Is that fair? Does that sound like a plan? Quick shout out to all of my wonderful, loving YouTube family out there. I'm so excited to have you guys with us. So for those of you, so let's go ahead and jump into the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show. But before I do, remember, have things to write with, have things to write on, be prepared to do drills or respond to me when I ask you to do something or say something. And finally, have fun, be playful, okay? You're gonna learn some amazing things today. And I'm excited to share them with you. That being said, covered questions, we've covered how to get your questions answered. Veterans, you've been assigned your job, so to speak. We've said hello to our loving YouTube family. And okay, so go ahead and let's get started. So let's go ahead and start with what I lovingly call the Dr. David Dog and Pony Show. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And the first question that people inevitably ask about face reading, first and foremost, is this stuff even real, right? And who is Dr. David Snyder, and why should I care? First and foremost, I am in fact an actual doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncture. I graduated from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine back in, actually I got my master's degree in 2005. I graduated from PCOM in 2019. I just finished a second doctorate program on Chinese energetic medicine, which is all the stuff that was taken out of Chinese medicine post-communist revolution. So it was basically a doctorate of medical qigong and shamanic healing practices through the Bianhuagong Temple here in San Diego, or actually in Los Angeles. So this is a copy of my my doctorate from Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I've had a practice in Solana Beach, California, where my specialty has been treating physiological illness that is caused by repressed emotion since 2005, since I graduated from acupuncture school. My primary modalities have been using energetics, hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, holographic memory resolution, and I use my training in Chinese medicine as a way to target the emotional underpinnings of psycho-emotional illness, or what we call psychosomatic illness, which is basically everything. I've also written over 15 different courses on various forms of human influence, everything from conversational hypnosis, persuasion, influence, conversational belief change, hypnotic presentation skills, therapeutic hypnosis or hypnotic language patterns for healers, vibrational influence, obviously many forms of body language and personality profiling. In 2020, I was named the #1 NLP Trainer of the Year by globalgurus.org. I've been in the top two guru slot for the last 8 years. So I've been, it's been pretty consistent. And I appreciate you guys keep voting for me. So I like that. But starting in 2022, actually starting in 2020, but up through 2023, the course I created, which we're going to be talking a little bit about in this training, Killer Influence, was named the #1 NLP Training Program of the Year by Global Gurus. And we've been the #1 training program. Hopefully we'll continue that tradition in 2004, but from 2020 up to 2003, we've been the top dogs on the block. So I'm excited about that. And this is from a few years ago. All right, this is from 2023. I also have, I'm also a career martial artist. I have a 10th degree black belt in Okinawan Karate and Ryukyu Kempo. I have a 4th degree black belt in Shaolin Kung Tao, 2nd degree black belt in Kosho Kempo Ryu, 1st degree black belt in Fang Kuru Jiu Jitsu. Now, some people, when they start seeing me list these martial arts degrees, they say, what the heck does this have to do with face reading? Well, believe it or not, the art that I have my 10th degree in, Ryukyu Kempo, is an art that's special. It has 2 martial arts within it. One is called Kyusho Jitsu. The other is called Tuite Jitsu. And both of those arts deal with how to manipulate the acupuncture points, meridians, and energetics of the human body based on movements hidden in traditional martial arts forms. And one of the first things I was taught when I got to a certain black belt level is I was taught how to look at people's faces and body types to determine where their energy was the strongest, so I would know how to defend myself or attack those areas if I needed to. So ironically, the very first place that I was ever exposed to face reading was in the martial arts many, many years before I walked into an actual Chinese medical face reading class. I'm also a certified instructor in Combat Sistema, Seiko Mano Eskrima, and Modern Arnis. I have a basic instructor under the founder, Grandmaster Remy Presas, the late Grandmaster Remy Presas. I also have probably more energy healing credentials than McDonald's sells hamburgers. I've been a Reiki master and teacher since before Reiki was cool, back in the early 90s. I've been doing Kabbalah almost as long as Reiki, before Madonna even heard of Kabbalah. So I'm very much a prima donna. I'm advanced certifications as a pranic healer and pranic psychotherapist. I'm advanced DNA theta healing practitioner. I am certified in the Bankston energy healing method. And like I said before, I just got my 2nd doctorate in Chinese energetic medicine, which is medical qigong and shamanic healing practices that were taught prior to the communist takeover, and when they sanitized a lot of what was going on in true Oriental medicine. So I'm very excited and honored to have been exposed to these things, and I love the fact that I could get to share them with you right now. When you look at David's curriculum, or when you look at David's CV, you know, some people are looking at that and might say, okay, David, so why are you showing me this if this class is about face reading? And it's because what all these things have in common. And it can be summed up in 2 words. pattern recognition. You see, everything people do has a structure to it. Everything people think, feel, every emotion that they manage has a structure and a mechanic to it. And if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, you can recognize those patterns and predict what's most likely to happen. You can interrupt those patterns and change the direction of behavior, or you can completely rewrite the pattern. Right? So there's lots of things that being able to recognize pattern, and if you want to go meta to every single discipline I've studied, from the Oriental medicine to the martial arts to the neurolinguistic programming, every single one of these disciplines is about some form of pattern recognition. And if you get enough of these systems under your belt, after a while, you start to realize something else, that a lot of these patterns are the same. Okay. And so what does pattern recognition have to do with face reading and reading faces? Pretty much everything. Okay. And hold on a second while I just do that. And so let's go on. So is this class for you? I'm going to ask you guys a bunch of questions. I want you to type in yes if the answer is to you. All right. You guys ready? How many of you actually would like to be able to get snapshots into people's personalities and emotional health, things of that nature? Would that be something you'd be interested in learning how to do? Yes or yes? Cool, right? How many of you would be interested in finding a better mate or improving the relationships with your mate by just being able to look at their face and knowing what you're likely to run into? Would that be something you'd be interested in? How many of you, just for fun, would like to be like the most fascinating person in the room everywhere you go? Would that be fun? All right, so I'm just gonna come out and say this right back. Beware of what you ask for. Because the moment that you start reading faces, you won't be able to get out of a room. Okay? There's a lot of amazingly cool things that happen as a byproduct of face reading. How many of you would like to be able to just banish fear and insecurity from your life, move through the world, being more confident and assertive and feeling more powerful? Would that be something you guys would be interested in? Okay, cool. How many of you would like to make more money, book more clients for your business, get that raise or promotion you know you deserve? Would that be something that might be helpful? You think if you could get a snapshot into somebody's personality and how they make decisions, that you might be able to maybe modify how you present yourself to be more effective? Cool. How many of you would like to be able to inspire your employees, your children, or your spouse to do whatever you want them to do when you want them to do it? Okay. How many? I'm really curious about something. How many coaches or therapists or people who work with people in that kind of a context do we have? Just type it in the chat. Okay, excellent. How many salespeople or managers do we have? Entrepreneurs? Right? There has not been a single place in my life, and I'm being very straightforward with you. There's not been a single place in my life where this skill set has not helped me. Right? How many of you have ever dated the same person with a different face and would like to avoid that in the future? All right, you're in the right place. All right. If you answered yes to 2 or more of these questions, you're going to want to get everything that we're offering you on this webinar. Okay? All right, so here's my personal promise to you. If you stay until the end of the webinar today, I'm going to teach you the most powerful method for speed reading and profiling personality behavior that has stood the test of time. Literally 2,500 years of testing and correlations and corroborations. It's really cool, right? I'm going to teach you how to understand personality and temperament in a way that most people never do. I want to show you how to look at somebody and have a pretty good idea really, really quick if their baggage is going to become your problem, right? How to track and understand a person's trauma history. Now, if you're a therapist or a coach, this is like literally like hacking their brain and looking at the emotions that they've repressed and are running away from. And that shit's going to come up in your sessions. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be very upfront. And by the way, here's my second disclaimer. If politically incorrect language, colorful metaphors, swearing, or the word boobies offends you, this is probably not the best use of your next 180 minutes or so. Okay. My intention is never, ever, ever, ever to offend anyone, but my presentation style, the topics I talk about, and the way I talk about them often provoke people in an emotional way. So my advice to you is that as we're going through this webinar, you find yourself having an extreme or an excessive emotional response to anything that I'm talking about or anything that I say. The first thing I want you to do is get a piece of paper out, draw a little stick figure, and circle where on that stick figure the feelings that come up are on your body. Because if you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. This is going to be very, very true when we show you the other side of face reading, which I wasn't taught. I had to add it to face reading, which is how do we fix what we find? In other words, if I've got someone who's got a huge amount of repressed emotional grief and sorrow, how do I start to alleviate that? How do I start to get to bring that up so that I can help them process it? So for those of you who are therapists or parents, or even with your spouse, which, by the way, I never recommend doing therapy on or with your spouse unless you have absolutely no choice. There's too many boundary issues that come up with that. But sometimes work needs to be done, and you're the only one that can do it, or that they're willing to let you do it with. And in those cases, you've got to know how to follow that, right? How many of you, if I'm going to teach you how to read personality and temperament on the face, I'm going to go actually deeper a little bit into personality and temperament than I would ever normally go in a webinar, or even in my face reading for fun and profit level 1 class. There are more advanced ways of stacking traits or clusters of traits that come together to create more, I don't want to say complex, but more varied emotional responses. So we'll talk a little bit about those things in part 3 of the webinar. I want to teach you finally how to become a master of people reading and human influence so that you can move your life and the needle of your life in the direction you want to go. Does that sound like a plan? Does that sound like something everybody would be on board with? Yes or yes, as T. Harv Eker would say. Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and jump into a different power note. I'm actually going to go into a OneNote now. And let me do this. Okay, so unlike some of my other webinars, this is a program or a class that is very, very graphics dependent. So what you're seeing here on my OneNote is 2 things. A, the beautiful young woman to the left of the weird dotted face is my teacher. This is Lillian Pearl Bridges. She inherited the face reading system that I'm going to be sharing with you through her family. She passed away in, I think it was 2020 or 2021. And then she left a lot of students behind, and people are trying, some of my classmates and stuff are trying very hard to move that lineage forward because that's what she wanted more than anything else. She truly wanted this information to get out to the public. She had a tremendous fascination with human psychology. She's an author of the book, Face Reading in Chinese Medicine, from which much of this information is drawn, not all, but much. The picture immediately to her right, or maybe to your left, is a picture from a very, very old Chinese medicine book. The book itself was over 2,500 years old. This was the second page of that book. And this is all about how to read the face, the different parts of the face, what they mean in terms of what the organs, what's going on with the organs, what's going on with the emotions, what's going on with the personality, their fortune. I'm very, very grateful to have trained with Lillian, and I'll share why with you. I'll just be very upfront. Once I started getting into face reading, I started discovering something really interesting, is that much of face reading is locked in what we call the batsa, or the Chinese divination or fortune telling side of the world. It's more into the metaphysics. The other place that Chinese face reading is seen heavily is in Chinese medical diagnosis. And it's very, very powerful in terms of being able, I can look at your face and I know how your organs, what's going on with your heart, your lungs, your kidney, your stomach, your spleen, your intestines. I can see all of that from the markings on your face. And Lillian, in her infinite wisdom, decided that people needed to understand, not are you going to be wealthy, not are you going to have a lot of children, not are you going to have good luck in life, although those things are definitely a part of the more metaphysical side of Chinese face reading. She wanted people to understand the Chinese medical diagnostic side in terms of the physical health, but she wanted to take it further. She said each of these organ systems has a series of emotions and personality characteristics connected to those systems. And they're very, very accurate and they're very, very reliable. And so that was her focus. Her focus was on bringing those aspects out into the mainstream as best she could and bringing the science that supports it with her. She could literally look at your face and give you an approximation of your Myers-Briggs profile. She was that good. There were at least 2 3-letter agencies that were trying to recruit her. And as I study all these different face reading systems, I become more and more grateful that I had the teacher I had, because she was able to teach me exactly the things that are most relevant to you because they're relevant to me. And that's understanding personality, behavior, patterns of thought and understanding, emotional repression, things of that nature. These are all things that are going to change how people respond to certain types of stimuli. And they're literally as plain as the nose on your face, right? But there's no guesswork here, really. What we're looking at is a science that's a 2,500-year-old observational science. A lot of people try to confuse what we're doing here with an art called phrenology, which was complete hogwash. This is not. This is something that I can, if you have a thyroid issue, I can look at your face and with a high degree of probability, find the markings, right? So there's a lot of that goes into what we're doing. Like I said, I don't need you to believe it. I just need you to do it, okay? That being said, what is possible with face reading? Well, we've already talked about the things that we can do with it. Face reading, by and large, takes a lot of guesswork out of communication. When I look at somebody, let me ask you a question. If you could look at somebody and know how they make decisions, what kind of information they want first, what kind of information they want second, what kind of information they want third, do you think that that would help you present your project, service, offer in a way that they were more likely to say yes to? Do you think that might work? Type in the chat. Yes, yes, no, no. Okay, good. Yeah, okay, good. And again, I know some of these questions are like, duh, David, that's why I'm here. But I want to make sure that our head's in the right place. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about several aspects of the face that we all need to understand. We can look at the face from a very, very global meta perspective, and we can keep chunking down. So where do we start? Every head shape tells a story, but Lillian never placed a lot of emphasis in her readings on the shape of the head. She considered the shape of a person's head to be like the frame of the picture. It can enhance or detract from the picture itself, but it's not the picture, right? The real magic, the real masterpiece, the tapestry of human personality is in the smaller pieces within the frame. And so that first thing when you come to like face reading for fun and profit level 1, we're going to teach you a 90-second facial profiling system where we can literally go from the hairline to the chin line in 90 seconds and create a complete profile, right? There's 2 types of profiling that we're gonna talk about in this webinar and that we teach in Planet David. The first one is called passive profiling. That's what this webinar is about. And that's based on a lifetime of micro expressions, emotional management, or as is often the case with other human beings, emotional mismanagement. See, a lot of human beings are taught emotional management using that term, but the mechanics of what they're actually taught is emotional repression. And so you'll be able to look at somebody's face and very, very clearly see the behavioral components of who they are and what they do, as well as the emotional components of who they are and what they do. The way we start that process is by understanding how to divide the head. So first 2 divisions we want to talk about is public face versus private face. Public face versus private face. How many people recognize that they are very different people when they're at work, or when they're at a nightclub, or when they're at church, compared to when they're at home? How many people have noticed that? Yes or yes? Okay. So here's the first division we're going to make when it comes to looking at a person's masks, the mask they're showing the world. The right side of a person's face is considered to be their public face. So, yeah, this is my right hand. This is my right face. This is my public face. Okay. This is my left hand. This is my left face. Okay. When we look at a person's face, because most people are right eye dominant, we tend to look at both sides of their face with the same eye. And so we often miss subtle differences between the right side of the face and the left side of the face. Okay. So when we look at these faces, when we look at public versus private, what are we looking for? First thing we're looking for is symmetry. How symmetrical are the faces? Right? Is my right eyebrow the same as my left eyebrow? Is my right eye the same as my left eye? And if not, how are they different? Now, in general, when we look at lines and wrinkles and features, the longer and deeper the line, the older and stronger the emotional charge or series of memories connected to it there are. Let me say that again. Right side of the face is your public face. Left side of your face is the private face. First thing we look for when we're gauging a face, we look through our left eye at their left side of their face, and we use our left eye as our non-dominant eye as much as possible. It's probably the best rule of thumb. Okay, I'm looking for symmetry. How closely does the right side of my face match the left side of my face? Is one feature higher on one side than the other? Are the wrinkles deeper or longer, or maybe even non-existent on one side versus the other? The first thing we look at is symmetry. Okay, as a rule, the longer the line, the deeper the line, the older it is, and the more energy is locked in the system in that area. Okay, you guys with me so far? In your own way, type into the chat the things I just told you in just a bullet point form so I can see that you're with me. Okay, Stella's asking, why is it better to use the non-dominant eye? I believe, and if I remember Lillian showing me, remember that your left eye is controlled by your right hemisphere. Your right hemisphere is the part of you that really takes things at a holistic level, and it can and grasp things more intuitively. And so my belief is that hemispheric usage or hemispheric dominance takes a place in that. Okay, so when we look at the face, we can look at the shape, but really what we're looking at is the right side versus the left side. We're looking for asymmetry. We're looking for lines, length and depth. Okay. Now, as we start to flesh out this map, you'll start to be able to add more and more distinctions to your ability to read faces. Okay. You guys with me so far? Okay, Tana's saying check symmetry, right side can be different than the left side. In fact, most of you, with very few exceptions, your right side will be different from your left side. If you get one of those apps on your iPhone that will take the right side of your face or the left side of your face and impose two left sides together, you will see a radically different person. And those are two very, very powerful but distinct aspects to your identity. The one I used to use was called Faces or Facer. But that's very old. I don't know what's out there now, but if you type face reading apps or something like that on your iPhone, you can probably get it. So Julie's asking, does this formula change if you had an accident that changes the face? The formula doesn't change, but the behavioral traits that are expressed do. Okay. One of the things that my teacher, and a story my teacher told me once, she had a student who had this massive Cro-Magnon level jaw, and he was like the star football player at his high school. He was being recruited like they were going to like try and skip college ball with him. This guy was so good, and for graduation, his mom went and got him plastic surgery because he was he was a great football player, but he was super self-conscious about the size of his jaw. And as soon as he got the surgery, when he went back to play, he lost his ability to play football. So it's actually not uncommon for personalities to modify in some way when you modify the facial traits. That seems to be more consistent when you remove something from the system rather than when you add something. Like Botox, I would never recommend you do anyway, because whoever thought it was a good idea to inject neurotoxins into anything in the human body was not thinking about your health. But that be that as it may. But the idea is the bone in your body is related to a concept in Chinese medicine known as Jing. Jing is the physical and material substance and potential of your body. And it's very, very, very difficult. In fact, post-communist Chinese medicine says that once that Jing is gone, you can't get it back. Pre-communist Chinese medicine has some very, very secret methods for rebuilding Jing, right? But it takes a long time and it takes a lot of work, okay? So the idea that when you go in and you remove some of that energy from the system, it's going to change things, right? That being said, I will tell you this, for those of you who really get on this face reading train, you're going to experience some weird stuff. One of the weirdest things being is when you actually start to unpack features in their face and you successfully resolve it, their face will change. You'll see noses get longer, cheekbones will pop out, brow bones will get bigger, some features will shrink. It's crazy. Niam says, I've seen that. Yeah, very good. And it happened at a regression class 2 weeks ago, where I brought a lady up, her face looked one way. We went through this really intense regression program, and everybody in the room says her face is different from when she got in the chair and when she got out. Yes. In fact, some of the more advanced face readers that I trained with, they're in their 70s and they look like they're 40 because the wrinkles are all gone. They look 20 or 30 years younger after being in the discipline than they were when they started. Okay. So that being said, so are we good? All right. So let's look back at decisions. So when we look at a person's face, we can also divide things up, not just right and left, but we can divide the face into 3 zones. So I have a picture of myself here. So this zone here that you see from about the eyebrow to the top of the head is known as the upper zone. The zone from the eyebrows to the base of the philtrum is your middle zone. And then from your chin line to the philtrum itself is your lower zone. Okay? So each of those zones of the face tells you something about that person. It will tell you when they're taking in information, when they're moving through the world, what kind of information they're going to look for first, what kind of information they're going to look for second, what kind of information they're going to look for third. And if you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, it will tell you exactly the sequence you need to speak to them in. So they'll take the information that you want and make the decision you want them to make. So that's where we're going to go next. Remember I said, if we could look at somebody and know how they make decisions, would that be useful? So that's where we're going. We good? Type in the chat if you're with me. So Tana says, I want to print a blank face page. Where can I find it so I can take notes while you speak? Well, I'm glad you asked. Hold on a second. All right. So we talked about social mask, public versus private. You guys see this okay? So this is what we just talked about in terms of public and private. This is decision making. So this girl is far more pretty than I am, so we'll focus on her face. The first thing we're going to talk about is what is known as the heaven zone in Chinese medicine or in Chinese face reading. This zone pertains, oops. Okay, apparently I'm not allowed to. Hopefully you guys are still with me because I think my thing just locked up. Oh, nuts.
Hey everybody, it's Mia here at NLP Power. I know that David's rebooting right now, but in the meantime, I would love to know a little more about what your questions are when it comes to decoding the face. What are you seeing when you look in the mirror? Let's cue it up so that when he comes back, we have a ton of uh, trails for him to wander down. So it looks like this chat is really popping off here. Brad sees a handsome 29-year-old guy with facial hair and 80 years of experience. Amazing. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, this comes up a lot. Another question that comes up a lot is, in places like Los Angeles or whatever, when people get a lot of plastic surgery, how does that affect how you face read? That also does come up.
Hey, this is Moss with NLP Power. Also, jumping in for a minute while David's rebooting. So other questions that are seen. Oh, is there? There he is. The man, the myth, the legend.
All right, hold on a second, guys. Gotta reboot the computer. Apparently, OneNote and Zoom have some kind of incompatibility. If I try to draw or annotate on my OneNote while I'm using Zoom, at least with this particular OneNote, it just locks up on me. I don't know why that is. So I'm going to do my best to work around this. All right, so let's go back to screen sharing. I just got to make sure that my YouTubers are back. Give me a sec to make sure I haven't lost my YouTube family. All right, looks like they're back. Okay, good. So Scott Davis is asking, what are the best practices for observations from face reading? I'll tell you what I like. If you understand behavioral profiling, you can look at things like, you can have them talk about issues. One of the things that's going to happen to you as you study face reading, people are going to become far more emotionally responsive and reactive to the things you say and do, especially when you start talking about the markings you see on the face. This is a quickening or an acceleration that seems to happen as a byproduct of face reading training. You become as I tell my my hypnosis and regression therapy students, you become an abreaction magnet. People will just start to vomit. Guys, I love your questions, but remember, I have a program to follow. Keep your questions. There will be a time in part 3 where I'm gonna take all of your questions and we'll drill down. So let me go ahead and go back to decision making. Oh, Scott, the other thing I wanted to say, this is something I used to do for quite a while. Can't quite do it as well now because nobody writes anymore. But handwriting analysis, a lot of the traits and the zones of handwriting analysis, specifically the system taught by Bart Baggett, have tremendous crossover and correlation to the 3 zones that we're talking about. In fact, if you understand Bart's system and you look at these 3 zones, there's a 1-to-1 correlation. You'll see it. And then there's other things about the shapes of faces or facial traits that actually correspond to certain loop letters and things of that nature. Bart Baggett, Baggett. Baggett. He runs, for those of you who are interested in that, handwritinguniversity.com. Tell him David sent you. Okay. For before I learned face reading, graphoanalysis that taught by Bart was my go-to. And it's still a great tool. The problem is that nobody writes anymore, and so it's not quite as useful as it used to be. All right, you guys ready to move on? Yes or yes? By the way, Moss is waiting in the wings. Mia is waiting in the wings. If by some reason my computer locks up again, just hang out. I'll be back. I promise you, when the replay goes live, I will do my best to edit out those dead spots. But that's what we've got going on. Okay, cool. All right, so let's try this again. I always get nervous now when I have to go and share my screen. I think I'm good as long as I don't try to outline something on the screen. I think I'm good. We'll see. All right. So let me make this bigger. All right. So the upper zone here is your heaven zone. People who are very data driven, their upper zone, this area here, will be much higher, much bigger than the rest of the zones. These people love numbers. They love data. They love spreadsheets. But don't think it's just about math. These people love any form of information that they can get their hands on. So if you go to somebody and they have this huge upper zone and you start talking about how they're going to love something or how it's going to make their life easier, they're going to look at you and say, show me. They're going to say, prove it. Where's your data? right? They're going to want all the information. Give me all the information on you have, and I'll make a decision, right? So one of the ways that you can test this is if how many of you live near like a tech campus, like a Qualcomm or Apple or Google or something like a place where a lot of programming and a lot of thinking goes on. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to go to the most eggheady part of the campus at lunchtime, right? And I want you to count the foreheads and notice the proportions of the forehead to the rest of the faces. In the vast majority of people in that occupation, you will see a much higher upper zone. Now, by the way, this does not correspond necessarily to intelligence, but desire for data, right? Go to your local MMA gym or a CrossFit gym or a football practice, right? Extreme athletes, things of that nature. Look at the forehead, look at the brow bone, look at the jaw. In the vast majority of those super athletic practices, you will see a very developed jawbone and usually a very prominent eyebrow ridge. Okay? Doesn't mean they're stupid. It means that these people experience the world through their physicality, through their gut feelings. Okay? Samantha says, I was always teased for my 5 head. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll take your word for it, Samantha. All right. So if I go to somebody, now let's think about this. Let's think about this like a profiler now. If I have a project that I need to present to somebody and I have a big forehead, but the person I'm presenting to, 5 head. Oh, I get it now. Okay, I was a little slow. But the person I'm presenting to has a really big lower zone. What's likely to happen? Think about it for a moment. They'll check out, right? Why? Because you're not, it's like NLP and certain love languages and things like that. We relate to the world through our dominant modalities. If I relate to the world through my gut feelings, my emotions, my instincts, and my drives, and you're presenting data to me, I have to work hard to translate that. That's going to give me a less than positive body feeling. And that's going to change my reticular activating system. And I'm going to have a less than, in many cases, I'm going to have a less than positive response to what you're presenting. But if I have the awareness to look at what I'm doing, right, then I can start to change how I present. Okay. One of the things you'll discover is that friends become friends with people because they have certain physical traits in common, not necessarily skin color, but a lot of people will have similar jawbones or cheekbones, similar foreheads. There'll be 1 or 2 traits that are very, very similar. Okay. One of the things that Lillian taught us, and she showed us this in our first day of face reading, in the first few pages of her book, she would show photographs of couples who got married 30, 40, 50 years ago when they first got together. And then she would show you the same couple 50 years later, and they look like brother and sister, right? How many people have ever seen somebody who looks like their dog, right? How does that work? It works through rapport, right? It works through rapport, okay? It's a very bizarre thing. It gets a little on the woo side, but it's more quantum and holographic than it is metaphysics, right? You're nothing but light anyway, according to quantum mechanics and quantum physics. So if your angle of refraction changes, which is your emotional density, then the way light behaves when it interacts with your system changes and you look different, right? It's actually pretty cool. All right, so let's finish this up so we can get into the more practical applications of this. The next zone I want to talk about, I'm going to use the annotation function here and see if that helps us. The next zone I want to talk about is this middle zone here. This middle zone is actually one of the things that can kind of save our butts if we're going, like, say you're a highly data-driven person. In other words, you got a super large upper zone here, right? And you're dealing with somebody who's got a super large middle zone. One of the ways that you can kind of save yourself is by talking about things in terms of the middle zone. The middle zone is your practical zone. It's your pragmatic zone. It's the part of you that wants to know, how is this going to make my life easier? What's this going to do for me, right? So when you look at somebody, we want to know, the first thing is we want to figure out what's the dominant zone. Is it the upper zone, the middle zone, or the lower zone? What's the second dominant zone? Upper, middle, or lower? What's the third? That's going to give you a sequence. So let's say we're talking to somebody who has they have like a diamond-shaped face, which generally speaking has a very pronounced middle zone, right? Let me erase this. Right? They have a very pronounced middle zone. So this zone becomes my 1. Or actually, no, let's make it simpler. Because if I start changing it, you're going to get confused. So my biggest zone that when I look at them, the first zone I notice that's really big is their middle zone, right? I look at them, then the next thing I notice is the next zone is here, right? And then their smallest zone is here. That tells me that their code, or the sequence I need to give them information in, hold on a second, is 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 1. Oops. Wow, that's not working out real well. Okay, pardon me. 2, 3, 1. What does that mean? That means I have to talk about the practical benefits. Then I have to talk about how they're going to love it. And then I have to give them the data that supports my claims. But what if they're a 1, 2, 3? Right? What if they're 1, 2, 3? Well, what does that mean? It means they parse the data, they look at the practical applications, and then they get a feeling about it. Well, then I have to do exactly that. I have to give them all the data, point out the practical applications, and tell them how much they are going to love it, and to follow their instincts. You guys see what I'm doing here? Yes or yes? Right? So I can look at somebody, if I'm just getting the basics, I can look at somebody, see what their dominant zone is, and I can present just to that. And I'll probably get a pretty significant shift in their openness to my presentation. But the more perfectly I can match all 3 zones, the more perfectly I'm going to follow their decision-making pattern. Okay, so Pseudonymous is asking, what if they're equal? Great question. These people with balanced zones usually have a hard time making decisions because the 3 zones are kind of battling for dominance. But one zone will usually predominate. My recommendation is to, if you see somebody who's really, really balanced, right? Always start with the practical zone, or always start a little bit with data and jump right into the practical zone, because you'll be able to tell right from the first few seconds what direction they're going to lean. Now, remember, this is primarily if they're balanced, if they're really, really balanced, right? Because if someone who's pragmatic, who's data driven, but you start with the pragmatic side, they're going to ask you, well, show me the proof, or show me the data, right? Show me the results, prove it. Somebody who's more instinctive driven is going to listen to the practical side of things. Oh, I like that. Tell me more, right? And now you can fit better. So I've always found it's a good idea if you can't measure their zones. Start with something that everybody can agree on. There's just something they want it to do for them, and unpack that and see what direction they lean, and follow that line of questioning or inquiry. Usually, one of those zones is going to be pretty fairly. Yes, Keith saying you're cracking their code. Yes. Now, here's the other thing about this. Those can change depending on lifestyle changes. If you've got somebody who is very athletic, right? Super bodybuilder, CrossFitter or whatever, and for some strange reason, they walk away from that and go start working for a PhD, you'll start to see the zones shift. I can't tell you how much they'll shift, but the person they are at the beginning of school will be different from the person they are at the end of school. It's kind of interesting to watch that transformation take place. Okay. Is this useful? Yes or yes? Cool. All right. So the next thing so we've talked about, I'm going to use my face right here just so I don't get knocked out. Liam says that's scary. Oh, it gets scarier. If this is scary, wait till you see what's coming. Now, I got to warn you. Once you're trained in this, I mean really trained, like certified level trained, you can't unsee this stuff. So you're going to have to be careful, A, who you tell that you read faces, and B, just because you see something doesn't mean you say something. Let me repeat that 2 more times. It's very easy to weaponize this material. Just because you see something doesn't obligate you to say something. And the people you should not be saying things to, regardless of what you see, are people under the age of 18. And the reason that I was told that, what I was taught that by my teacher, Lillian, is because people at that age, first of all, when you start reading people's faces, they become hypersuggestible to you. I've rarely seen such a powerful hypnotic amplifier and charisma builder than face reading. And it will give you tremendous, tremendous psycho-emotional leverage over another human being. You have to handle that with respect. Because of the amplification of suggestibility, because it creates a very vulnerable state in a person, you have to be careful who you say it to and how you say it, because it can be installed like a suggestion. So I was taught never read children under the age of 18, because they take what you say, especially if you're a parent or an authority figure, they take what you say at face value, no pun intended. And it becomes a program, right? Let's do one more thing. We're going to start on emotions, and we'll move through that as quickly as we can. And then I'm going to move into phase 2 of the webinar, where we talk about how you can become a certified practitioner in face reading, and how you can integrate these things into your practice, into your management team, into your personal business, coaching, whatever. Is that fair? Is that cool? Can we do that? I'm always studying something. Is my head going to get too long on the top like a wizard? Maybe. It's more likely going to be your forehead, though. Okay. All right, so let's go to emotions in the face. This is one of my favorite maps. When I was introduced to face reading, there was so much Chinese medicine involved that I really struggled to figure out how to make this practical for you guys. And so I actually wound up creating 2 separate systems for face reading. One is the classical 5-element Qi Jing and Ling based system that I learned from Lillian, Shen based. And the other one I developed for Western audiences, people who don't have any clue about 5-element theory, Shen, Qi, or Jing, or any of that. So they go out and use this to read faces. So when we look at this, we're going to do this in groups of 5. Okay. So first and foremost, let me annotate. So let's start with the eye. The eye, and specifically the eyebrow. When you see lines that start at the center point of the eyebrow and move laterally, you're dealing with the trait of skepticism. Now, when you're reading people's faces and you see these skepticism lines, there's several ways you can approach this. I would never walk up to somebody with skepticism lines and say, "You're a skeptical mofo," right? I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I would soften the statement and I would turn the statement into a question. So I might say something like, "You have the most amazing eyes. And I've noticed that there's this marking right above the center point of your eyebrow that moves to the right. And what I've discovered is that people with those particular markings or that particular line are very, very evidence driven. They tend to move through the world with a kind of a skeptical, show me the proof kind of an energy. Would that be true for you?" And when you phrase it that way, you'll get a lot more people volunteering information than becoming defensive. Because one of the things that happens, if you go up to somebody and say, "You're a skeptical motherfucker," some people will take offense to that. Some people will get reactant and go into denial, even though it's true, right? Because they're very private individuals. So I've found that if you're going to do readings with people, and this is also true when you're doing like conversational belief change and reframing and stuff like that, which is one of the primary ways that you unpack this stuff, by the way, and change it, is through reframing. It's always better to frame things as a question that their brain has to fill in the answer for than just give them a direct statement. Okay. So when you see a line that moves from the center outward of the eyebrow towards the lateral side of the face, you're dealing with skepticism. Now, many of you have lines that start at the outer canthus of the outer corner of the eye and trace upward. These are joy lines. These are people who've experienced a high level of joy and happiness in their life, but they've also experienced, in many cases, a lot of excitement, some of which they may or may not have fully processed yet. Now, in Chinese medicine, they'll talk about virtues, passions, and toxic emotions, or internal pathogens and external pathogens. And if you look at a map of Chinese pathogenic emotions, you'll see the word joy. But the term joy, as we define it in the West, is different, right? Well, actually, you're not wrong, Mia. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. There's 2 kinds of joy. There's a healthy joy, which is kind of like a peacefulness or a comfort that resides in the heart. But the joy, the pathological joy that the Chinese systems are talking about, the Asian systems are talking about, is more like mania, excitement. Think like winning the lottery level excitement, right? Think of somebody who's up at 3:00 in the morning texting, right? And so what you'll see in people who are pathologically are at the manic depressive or the borderline area, they have strong manic tendencies, you're going to see that line go up past, it's going to go up past the eyebrow. So if you look at the map, if you go directly across from joy, you'll see the line, same line, but now it's traveling beyond the eyebrow. Can you see that? It's traveling beyond the eyebrow. When you see this line, if you're in a relationship with these people, or you're about to get into a relationship with these people, you better hang on, right? If you're a therapist and you see these lines and they're new clients, Realize that you're dealing with somebody who may have a high degree of manic behavior. Okay. Again, I'm not giving you the ability to diagnose through a Western medical sense, but in Chinese medicine, this would indicate a lot of heart fire, which is usually, or Shen disturbance, which is usually a psycho-emotional imbalance. Okay. So joy, healthy joy, unhealthy joy. You guys with me so far? Let me look at my chat. Liam says, David, this is freaky. Well, again, it's real. And sometimes when we're given access to something like this and it corroborates so many of our experiences, it can be very surreal. So I understand where that's coming from. All right. The next line we want to look at starts at the same place as a joy line, but now it travels down. And there's 3 degrees of sadness. So we've got sadness, we've got sorrow, and we've got grief. Now, for those of you who see clients, many times when you see these long lines going down the face, there'll oftentimes be lung issues. They'll have asthma, they'll have COPD, allergies. And when you start to process their emotions, a lot of times their asthma symptoms will kick up and then they'll go away. Or conversely, if you start to work on the asthma itself, they'll start to cry, or their breathing pattern will change to a grief or sorrow pattern. Okay. Okay, so Samantha's asking the question, if I'm not smiling, I don't see any eye lines, but plenty when I do, which is correct. Both are correct. Got to remember that the emotion lines that we're looking at are the consequence of a lifetime of expressions. Okay? Most of us will have some of these lines present when we're not making an expression, which shows that you've done a lot of it. Other times, these markings will only appear when you're making a specific expression. The lines that are the most telling for us are the ones that are present when you're not contorting your facial muscles, when you're not making a specific expression. Okay. But many times when people go into like emotional, the only word I have is abreaction, but a strong emotional expression, lines will appear that are hidden. It's pretty interesting, but what I look for when I'm reading faces, I look for what's there when they're not making a specific expression, when they're not laughing, when they're not crying, when they're not being frustrated. I'm looking for a baseline. And if the lines are still there, then I know what emotional expressions or lack of emotional expression they're engaging in, right? So again, everything starts with a baseline, and then you can look at other things from there. The next element I want to talk about is also connected to this emotion of loss. This is called a lost love line. And this line starts at the inner canthus. It travels down through the cheek and can sometimes meet up with the grief line. Now, I've seen this line manifest 2 different ways. I've seen it manifest exactly like I see here, but I've also seen it manifest where it starts at the inner canthus, travels across to the sadness or sorrow line, and then works its way down the cheek. Now let's talk about this line, because this is one that is not necessarily, there's a little bit more to it. So when you see this lost love line, this usually indicates someone or something that this person has lost. Now, sadness and sorrow is related to loss too. The primary difference that my teacher taught me was when you are born into this reality, when you take on this body, your spirit comes into your body and you have a set of spiritual missions that you are here to fulfill. The Taoists call that your Ming or your golden path, right? And if you're a coach or a therapist, you've all had people come in and go, I know I'm supposed to do something with this life. I just got to figure out what it is, right? That's that inner call for to fulfill the destiny, the spiritual mission that you came into. And when you come in with that mission, you intentionally choose a body, a set of parents, and a specific set of relationships that you're going to encounter to move that needle forward. When you're moving through and because you chose that body will have specific talents, loves, skills, weaknesses, and sensitivities that are unique to allow you to either overcome or to move you forward to fulfill your mission. So you may come in with something that is in alignment with who you came here to be, and every time you do that activity, your heart just opens up and it's all unicorns and rainbows. Let me ask you guys a question. When you were young, was there an activity that every time you got a chance to do it, you were all over it? Like it just made your heart sing for no other reason than you got to do it. It was like your reason for being. Type in the chat if you've ever had that. Okay. So what happens is whenever we lose the ability to have that experience, doesn't have to be a person, but that experience or that activity or that thing that made our hearts sing, if we lose the ability to do it, if it's taken from us in some way, we'll mark with a line like that. And so one of the most therapeutic and healing things that you can do with a client when you see that line is help them rediscover their purpose and reclaim that thing that was taken from them, or in some way help them resolve that. That's what that line indicates. And that's why it's a loss, but it's a deep internal loss. And they need to find a way to get that back in some way. Or at the very least, be at peace with it. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with a bunch of you guys? Now, I'm seeing a certain behavior starting to manifest. And it's almost, how many of you ever been in a psychology class? Right? When they were, and you've been maybe you were in a psychology class when they were going over psycho-emotional disorders, manic depressive, depressed, schizophrenic, blah, blah, blah. And every time they led the list, you went, oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. Oh my God, that's me. Right? Same thing can happen here. We can start to really become hyper suggestible to these things, right? If you have these lines, it doesn't mean you're broken, right? If you have these lines, it doesn't mean that you're always sad. It means that you've had experiences that made you sad, or that you lost something that was important to you that you haven't finished processing. And your job is to simply look at the markings, unpack them, and resolve them. And your face will get younger. The lines will disappear. They will go away. Your clients, their faces will change, but you're not broken. You understand? You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You've just been doing, as I like to say, some fucked up shit, right? Because anytime we hold on or stuff down an emotion rather than expressing it in a positive, constructive way, we're hurting ourselves. We're poisoning ourselves through emotional toxicity. And that was a theory that my wife and I came to independently through 20 years of medical practice, was that a lot of aging was due not to the body getting old per se, but the actual buildup of emotional toxicity in the body. And after 20 some years of looking into terminal cancer, multiple sclerosis, COPD, Parkinson's, lupus, muscular dystrophy, herpes and STDs, any form of social phobia, active shooters, any form of trauma, cult abuse, 99% of everything that makes us old or sick can be distilled down to emotional toxicity of some kind. I have not found anything in my clinical practice that emotional clearing won't help, if not completely alleviate. That's a big claim. It's a really big claim, but that's been my experience. And so face reading, if you understand it and you're willing to learn it and do it, is one of the ways that you can take an instant snapshot every single day of you and everyone you meet and unpack who they really are and make decisions about how big a part of your life you want them to be, how to make their lives better, how to make your lives better, and relate to people and see people through the eyes of compassion and wisdom. Okay? There's so much to this. There truly is. And I wish I had another 3.5, 4.5 hours to go through every single trait. I just don't. Right? So with your permission, I'm going to give you 3 or 4 more traits. And then to keep on our schedule, I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about ways that you can level up your skills, your knowledge, and your abilities cross-contextually and actually integrate these things, these skill sets into your life in the way that's going to really move the needle of your life forward and give you the biggest bang for your buck. Is that fair? Type in the chat if you think that's fair. Okay, good. This is the interactive portion of the training, by the way. So Catherine is saying, I think I have stored a lot of trauma in my fat. Tip to start to unpack that would be great. Okay, there is a program. It's a cleansing program called Isogenics. Start with that. And then start to learn the transformational triad, old man in the tide pool, and beating the bag. And I think you'll start to see some changes. Okay. Okay, let me go to the map again. And by the way, I do apologize earlier for the technical difficulties before. Some lessons just have to be learned the hard way, I guess. All right. So let's look at some of the most important lines for those of you who are going to be working with humans. I want to talk about the markings specifically in this area of the face. And in part 3 of the webinar, with your permission, I'd like to drill down even more on these, but I want you to focus on everything above the mask. If you think about, our COVID days. So the next line that I want to look at is this double line between the eyebrows. Okay. This line indicates some level of irritation, annoyance, or impatience. I like to call this the traffic marking, the traffic face. Why? Because if you've ever seen anybody in traffic, especially LA traffic, this is what they look like. Right? You'll see this a lot when people are concentrating. You'll see this a lot when people are frustrated, when they're impatient. This area of the face is one of the most important areas for understanding how people deal with boundary issues and aspects of boundary. Okay? The eyebrows represent the wood element of the body. Now, that means nothing to people who haven't studied Chinese medicine. What it does relate to is how you deal with and express authority, how proactive you are, how well you deal with people telling you what to do, how much energy you have for other people, what your self-esteem is like, how athletic you can be, how well you control or don't control your anger, right? The brow bone itself is all about athleticism and, again, higher degrees of how you relate to authority. We're going to talk about those in part 3 of the webinar, but I wanted to just give you an understanding that we're talking about emotions right now, but that's only one map of the face and a level that it relates to. Okay, so when you see these double lines, what you're seeing is somebody who spent a lot of time feeling frustrated, a lot of time suppressing or experiencing or managing annoyance, or they're irritated. And if that mark is there, even when they're not obviously physically or visibly irritated, this is someone who's repressed a lot of that. Okay, so these people are kind of almost always a powder keg waiting to go off. They'll have a bit of a temper, right? Every now and then, you're going to see someone with 3 of these lines. So literally like 3 of these lines right through here. So they'll 1, 2, 3. So I'll draw it for you really quick. So the line will now look like this. There'll be 3 of them. When you see this line, it indicates somebody who's actually learned how to manage their frustration and annoyance. They're more zen, or will tend to be more zen than somebody who only has the 2 lines. Every now and then, you're also going to see somebody who has one big line or one line right down the center. Now, there are many names in the Chinese systems for this marking. However, and the common name for this is called suspended needle. If it's really big, they call it suspended sword. What does it indicate? Anger. Usually at the authority figure in the family. Back in traditional times, the dominant authority figure in the family was usually the father. And so a lot of people who were trained with Lillian would say that this person has father issues. But because the family unit has really changed significantly since classical times, I like to use the term authority figure, or in many cases, the most masculine energy in the family. This is often expressed as some form of anger between a son and a father, between 2 brothers, etc. Now, the important thing to remember about this particular marking is that it's unfinished business. And let me explain why. When you see this marking, this single line, it indicates that there was a conflict between 2 people. And in that conflict, one of those people, the person with the marking specifically, that person got super, super angry. And they vented and expressed that anger. In other words, person A is getting angry at person B. They lose their shit and they just explode. Maybe they hit them. Maybe they say something they shouldn't have said that the person can't forgive. And that person punishes them. That person who expressed that anger got punished. And they got punished bad. And while that person is going through that punishment period, they review in their mind what happened, what they did, and they make a decision that they are never, ever going to let themselves get that angry again. And they put a blocker or a governor on how much emotion, how much anger energy they're willing to express. And the moment they make that decision, the marking shows up. Okay. And this is really important because remember I said that this area of your face represents the wood energy of the body. You know, the important thing to remember about the wood energy of the body is it relates to everything regarding authority, boundaries, and achievement. The most woody people are the people who never stop moving and are always trying to get something accomplished and something done. They're going all the time, right? They're focused, they're driven. When a person gets angry and they realize that they were punished for expressing that anger, they decide in that moment, I'm never letting that happen again. So if this is 100% of their energy, they put a block somewhere between here and here. So they have all this unused, untapped energy that they can use to become more successful, but they stop. And so this creates a pattern in people that looks a lot like self-sabotage. If you've ever met people who they go to learn something and they take off like a rocket, they reach a certain point and their life explodes. They get bored and move on to something else. They get in a fight with their manager, their boss, or have a fundamental disagreement with the authority figure in that business, and they're off doing something else. These people become jacks of all trades, masters of none, even though they have the potential to become masterful. It's because as they're expressing themselves, they have all this energy that they can use, and then they hit that block that would allow them to become superstars long term, but they have to leave. They leave. And a lot of that is because they're still fighting that original battle. Miami says, just shoot me. It's okay. It's fixable, right? You're not broken. What it means is that you're far more powerful than you've let yourself be, right? Now, sometimes that marking is really small. Sometimes it's huge. But one of the things I've seen behaviorally is that reoccurring process of accelerating, blowing up, accelerating, blowing up, accelerating, blowing up, right? And these people are always trying to win the argument that they lost many, many years ago. So these people are always trying to prove how good they are. They're always trying to prove themselves. And then they'll get to a certain point and they'll do something to blow it up. So I consider it to be a strong indicator of self-sabotage and insecurity, because these people are still angry. They're still fighting. And if you can get that block removed, man, your life's going to take off. You're going to take off. Okay. Is that useful? Okay, hold on a second. I got to change my settings here. Let me look at immensely. Okay, good. If you've got that marking, we love you anyway, right? My wife has this marking, by the way. So I have to be very careful what I say because she knows where I sleep. Right? All right. All right. So with that being said, there's one more. I want to finish this up in part 3, but we're a little bit behind. So I hope you'll bear with me. With your permission, I'd like to talk to you about the training programs and opportunities we've got coming up, the packages we put together for you, and show you how to take this glimpse into the universe of face reading into a much more vast and pragmatic way. Is that okay? Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to share with you one of my favorite courses. This is called Face Reading for Fun and Profit. This is a set of programs I've put together specifically so you can learn the art and science of face reading from the privacy of your own home. It is easily one of the most comprehensive face reading programs available. It will effectively teach you how to read anyone in as little as 90 seconds and just go from their hairline to their chin line. And here's what it's going to do for you, right? It's going to teach you how to understand yourself, how to read people instantly in any situation or circumstance. It's going to allow you to effectively create profiles that help you predict and influence human behavior. It'll be able to, and because you can predict and influence human behavior, you'll be able to help more people. You'll move through the world feeling more confident in the relationships you create and the way you handle people and the people you let into your life. You'll feel more powerful because you'll be able to influence people anytime you want. You'll be able to speed read people and really understand how to slot people into the positions you want them to be in a way that makes them happy. And as a byproduct of this, you're going to become more charming, charismatic, and absolutely irresistible. It's one of those. First time I launched this at HypnoThoughts Live, it was on a Sunday. It was the last time slot of the last day of a 3-day hypnosis convention. And literally 400 people showed up. It was supposed to be a 2-hour slot. I was there for 4 hours reading faces. This is something that will completely change every aspect of your life that you choose to apply it in. This offer is good until 11:59 p.m. today, September 26th, 2024. First thing we're going to start with is the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course. It's valued at $1,997. It comes with a complete set of manuals. It's a powerful, proven, real-world face reading skills and psychological secrets for reading personality, temperament, trauma history, and more. You're going to be able to assess the personality and temperament of anyone you meet in just a few seconds. Instantly understand and utilize how their thinking and decision-making styles, how to unlock the emotional map of their face so you know who you're dealing with below the surface. It'll allow you to understand their management style so that you can decide if they're someone you want to work for, someone you can work with, or someone who needs to be moved to a very, very far division in your company. It'll allow you to connect with people and show compassion for these people in a whole new level. And you'll allow it, and every morning when you look in the mirror, you'll understand yourself better because you'll see what's below the surface in ways no other system could show you. As a byproduct of this, you're going to be able to predict, not only just predict human behavior, but you'll become the most fascinating person in the room, and you'll never be fooled again. That's a big claim. But if you understand what you're looking at and what you're looking for, people become, no pun intended, a very, very open book. The total value on this is $1,997. But we're also going to include some very, very special bonuses just for you being on the webinar tonight. These are things that are going to take the face reading curriculum and expand it into levels that you might not have thought were relevant, but are dramatically relevant to making sure that you move your needle in your life forward the way you want and become the best version of yourself and protect yourself at the same time. So the first thing we're going to include is one of our best-selling programs. I talked about this earlier. This is our NLP Defense Against the Dark Arts, Speed Profiling, Influence, and Counter Manipulation Home Study course. This is the course that was one of the courses that was ranked one of the #1 NLP training courses in the world by globalgurus.org. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you free when you grab your face reading home study package. And here's what it's going to allow you to do. It's going to start with 16 videos that teach you the universal persuasion protocol, how to think like a master influencer, how to control your psycho-emotional state so no one else can, power rapport skills for connecting with anyone, anytime, anywhere. It's going to give you the most irresistible hypnotic language patterns so that you can leverage the natural suggestibility that you're going to have as a trained face reader. It's going to teach you how to manage the emotional states of other people, how to use their own internal behavior code so that you can more perfectly match how they experience the world to the messages you want them to accept, and to teach you how to emotionally bond to anyone's deepest desires and get them to do what you want them to do. But we're not going to stop there. It's also going to teach you the fundamentals of lie detection on demand, how to literally spot sociopaths, narcissists, and other evil a-holes before they have a chance to sink their hooks into your life or ruin the life you've built so hard for yourself. It'll also help you to learn how to extricate yourself from relationships with these people. I'm going to teach you very powerful speed profiling secrets that allow you to prevent predators from getting their hooks into you in the first place. We're going to teach you the ins and outs of predatory psychology. In other words, how do these people select their victims? How do you take yourself off the menu? And most importantly, how do you turn the tables on the narcissists, the Machiavellians, the dark triads, the sociopaths, and other forms of character disturbed persuasion predators, right? It's a deep dive into the dark side of influence so that you can emerge on the other side, on the side of the angels. Right? We're going to teach you some of the most powerful hypnotic reframing techniques imaginable for winning any argument and keeping yourself from being gaslighted or otherwise mind washed by these evildoers in the world. We'll show you the 21 telltale conversational red flags that narcissists and sociopathic individuals, character disturbed individuals, tend to express in everyday conversations that allow you to spot them and avoid them or neutralize them in whatever way is appropriate. We're going to teach you how to instantly spot micro-expressions and changes in subtle, active behavioral cues so that you can tell when somebody's suppressing an emotion, somebody's duping you, or things of that nature. And many more bonus chapters on other forms of psychological tactics and influence. It's just a tiny piece of what's in Defense Against the Dark Arts. Total value on this is $1,997. If you combine the Defense Against the Dark Arts program with Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 1, total value on this is $3,994. But we're going to give it to you free, and we're not done yet. We're also going to teach you one of the most important aspects of, hold on a second, my mouse wheel is very small. The Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course. One of the things that we discovered, or I discovered, when I was going through my face reading training was that Lillian loved to talk about and diagnose people's emotional health, their physical health, their spiritual health. And all she would do was talk about it. She would diagnose and diagnose and diagnose, and then she would have to refer you out to a psychotherapist or a social worker or a hypnotherapist to get that stuff fixed. And I got really frustrated with that. And I decided, since I had all these skill sets, that I was just going to combine them. I was just going to integrate them. I created a program called Chinese Medical Hypnotherapy. And it's an integration of face reading and the transformational skills that we are known for at Planet David. So to move you in that direction, I'm including one of our most powerful hypnosis training programs. This is the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course. It's going to teach you in no uncertain terms how to hypnotize people anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, for any reason. It's going to show you specific tactics for removing blocks to your success and dissolving limiting beliefs so that they never come back again. We're going to show you how to find and remove hidden negativity that you didn't even know you had, stuff that's buried below the surface. Face reading is one of the tools that we can use to do that, but there's many, many others that you'll learn about in this course. We're going to show you how to clear up issues that just don't seem to go away. Something goes away, or something comes up, you get treated for it. By the time you get home, it's back. You get rid of one person, the same person with a different face shows up. We're going to show you how to keep that pattern from recurring once and for all, because there's always a lesson to be learned from that. And once you understand how to extract those lessons and let everything else go, that pattern has no reason to stay in your life. Okay? We're going to teach you how to resolve and dissolve and drain all the energy from the negativity in your past and use that to propel you into a more powerful, positive future. When you look back on the past, you'll only remember it in ways that make your life better. Okay? And finally, we're going to teach you how to install the traits, qualities, and characteristics that you want more of based on the people you've studied and learned from, so that you can reproduce their results in life and much more. It's a really powerful program. It will take you from zero to hero in a few short days. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free as part of your package, your face reading certification package tonight, because we want you to be able to do everything you can based on this face reading curriculum. If you need to heal somebody or help somebody through a rough time, this course will do it. If you want to learn how to use face reading to protect yourself and create powerful relationships with other people, Defense Against the Dark Arts will allow you to do that, right? We put a lot of thought into making sure that this package gave you the biggest bang for your buck. Now, there's a lot of other ways to read people besides face reading. And so several years ago, I did a 2 or 3 day course called People Reading for Fun and Profit. And this was all on my approach to reading and understanding body language. I've spent a lot of years and spent a lot of money on body language training. And over and over again, my ability to read people would come down to a few core sets of skills and a few basic algorithms and formulas that you follow. And if you take these algorithms and these formulas and you apply them, you'll be able to read people's body languages and expressions anytime, anywhere, under any circumstance, very, very quickly. You'll be able to understand the body language of attraction, both the male side and the female side. You'll be able to detect lies and other deceptive behaviors. You'll be able to influence people without using your words. This is really powerful. In fact, I think, I'm not quite 100% sure, but I think in this training, I actually hypnotized somebody without using any words. I'm not sure. I think that's in this course. Correct me if I could be wrong there. Men, you'll learn how to understand women better. Women, you'll learn how to understand men better. You'll learn how to dress for success and the different levels of success. Have you ever seen some of my videos on Planet David about the different social status and dress? You'll learn about those in this course. We'll teach you how to eliminate the behaviors and the body language things that you're doing that weaken your influence. As a byproduct of this, you're going to get more deals. You're going to get more dates. People will become a very, very navigatable set of things for you. Now, when I say things, I don't mean things in a derogatory way, but you'll be able to manage the people in your life much more easily. You'll be able to make better decisions. And as a byproduct of that, your life will become everything you want it to be. Okay. Total value on this is $1,497. We're going to give this to you once again, 100% free as a byproduct of this package, right? So total combined value on this is $6,988. But you know what? We're still not done, right? But let's look at what we've got so far. So we're going to start off with the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course. That's the 3-day training with the manuals, I should say. $1,997 value. We're going to do the Speed Profiling Defense Against the Dark Arts NLP Home Study course, valued at $1,997. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course, valued at $1,497. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the People Reading for Fun and Profit 2-day intensive, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. And finally, the total value on this is $6,988. Now, some people might be saying, okay, well, what's this actually going to cost me, David? Is it really going to cost me $6,988? The answer is no. Well, is it going to cost me half that? Are you going to give it to me for half price, $3,497? Well, I thought about it, and then I said no. Well, David, what about like $1,497? That's pretty low. I mean, that's a third of the price, right? Yeah, that would be a good value at $1,497, wouldn't it? No. For those of you who want to get the head start on your package, for those of you who want to move the needle, you can get everything I just talked about for one low installment of just $997, or if you want, you can break that down into 3 easy installments of just $397 each. All you got to do to get yours is click the link in your chat there, nlppower.com/face. Click the link and get into the funnel. There's not a lot of these packages that we're giving out, and you'll see why in just a few moments. Click that link right now. It shows up in your chat. If you have questions, you can reach out to Moss at nlppower.com. You can reach out to Mia at nlppower.com. The phone number is 858-282-4663. Oops. What happened there? Okay. That was weird. 858-282-4663. Okay. So click that link. If you said yes to any of the things that I started the webinar with, this would be a good time to click that link right now. But we're not done. Some people might say, well, David, how do I know this will work for me? I promise you it'll work for you. Take our course, test drive it for a full 60 days. If after 60 days, you're not on the fast track to speed reading people eliminating the people in your life that are problematic, attracting more of the people that you want. If you're not managing people more effectively and your life isn't improving, pick up the phone, let Moss or Mia know, and we will refund every single dime you invested in this program. But I promise you, you'll be happy because you'll realize you underpaid for this course. You have absolutely zero risk. If after 60 days you're not moving the needle of your life in a way that allows you to become the best version of yourself, we'll refund every dime. No fuss, no muss. If you have questions, we're here to help you. Okay? Give us the opportunity to coach you, to guide you. And if after that you're not 100% convinced that it's what you need, we'll give you the money back. Because if it doesn't work, we don't want your funds. Okay? So click that link right now. You got absolutely no reason not to. This is the best price you're ever going to get. It's going to be one of the most powerful transformational experiences of your life, and it will only get better. That's the best part. The longer you're doing this stuff, the more powerfully you change and transform, right? Click the link. Okay. So once again, for those of you who are action takers, those of you who are ready to really move the needle, if you click that link right now, before September 26, 2024, 11:59 p.m. today, and specifically when I log off the webinar, you're also going to get the following fast action bonuses. You're going to get a 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. Now, this is where the rubber really hits the road for most people. So I'm going to jump out of my PowerPoint for a moment just to explain this to you. The NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program has been the world's longest running NLP hypnosis, mind, body, energy, communication skills study group in the world. It's been running every month nonstop, give or take, since October of 2010. And the way it works is on the third Saturday of every month. Sometimes that changes depending on my training schedule. But on the third Saturday of every month, people log in from all over the world. If we're doing an open house and you're in the Southern California area, you get to come to the NLP office, to our conference room, and participate live and in person. And I literally say, Maria, what do you want to learn? Mia, what do you want to learn? Kyung, what do you want to learn? Cool guy, what do you want to learn? Stella, what do you want to learn? Nia, what do you want to learn? Right? And I write down what you guys want to learn about on the board. And then I step back and I look at where they all kind of connect and intersect. And I make a lesson plan for you guys right on the spot. And for the next 4 hours, sometimes 8 hours, we roll up our sleeves and we drill together until you can do those skills in your sleep. Time and time again, it has been the ability to get into a group of people who have similar desires and interests and physically practice your skills. That is the difference between borrowed knowledge and owning knowledge. And that's what we want to give you. We want to give you the opportunity to go from borrowed information to personal transformation and long-lasting, useful information. The only way to do that is to roll up your sleeves, get around a group of like-minded people, and practice. So we're going to give you a 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. On the third Saturday of every month, you'll log in or you'll show up. I'll find out what you want, and we will drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. Cool guy says, I got to do a mastermind session once. It was intense. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Right? Why? Because my job is to help you get good at this stuff. I can't multiply zeros. If you show up, I'll show up. Right? Plus, we've been doing this for over 13 years. October will be our 14th year that we've been running the Mastermind Mentoring Program. We've recorded, we've videotaped every single one of those training sessions. And we've archived them at various locations in Planet David. And as a member in good standing for the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program, you get access to 13 years of archived video that's never seen the light of day. Right? Stuff that's never been in a product, stuff that's rarely shown on YouTube, right? And you get to binge watch that for the entire 90 days that you're part of the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Program. If you decide you want to stay, we'll show you how to extend your membership. If you get what you need and you decide it's time to move on, mio con Dios, amigo, right? It's just how it rolls, right? But the idea, you won't get a certificate from the mastermind program. What you will get is a skill set, the ability to do these things in your life in real time with real people. You'll become part of a community that loves and supports you, that is interested in the same things you're interested in, and you get access to a whole library of content and information that very few people in this world have ever had an opportunity to see. It's a very limited opportunity. I encourage you to click that link just for that, but there's more. So let's go ahead and jump to what else we got for you. So total value on this is a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you free. Total value is $8,985. If you're one of the next people to click that link right now, we're also going to include our next fast action bonus, which is face reading for fun and profit level 2. This is everything below the mask. And this is going to pick up where face reading 1 left off. It's going to teach you about the nose, the cheeks, the chin, the lips, the ears, certain personality profiles. In other words, the shape of the face from the side. It's going to teach you about how to read their emotions, how to read their personality and temperament, and allow you to predict and influence human behavior at a completely different and even more powerful level, right? It's going to amplify and magnify all the persuasion and profiling skills that you've achieved. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Total combined value on this program monetarily is $10,982. And finally, because a lot of you are like me, love live events, for the next 17 people to register today, we're going to give you a free VIP ticket to our next Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 1 3-day certification boot camp set for December 13th through the 15th, 2024, here in San Diego, where you'll literally learn how to read anyone, anytime, anywhere in seconds. It's a $3,150 value. We're going to teach you how to read personality traits instantly, how to find repressed trauma and emotions and how to evoke those so you can help fix them. We're going to teach you how to determine romantic and sexual compatibility, how to make people want to like, trust, and love you, how to become the most fascinating person in the room, detect lies, deception, mental and psychological issues, and a whole lot more. This is a deep dive into the art and science of applied face reading that you can take into any business or application that you can imagine. It's going to move your needle in a direction of positive growth, positive monetary abundance, and happy, fulfilling relationships. Plus, you get to heal people if you want. Total combined value on this package is $14,132. But I'm not done. This is a completely unannounced, super surprise mystery bonus, and it's only going out to the next 15 people who register for this package by clicking that link today. On October 12th through the 14th, 2024, we will be hosting a very, very special, by invitation only, healing event. This is a 3-day virtual healing intensive with me, Dr. David Snyder, live. If you've ever wanted to do session work with me, but maybe you couldn't afford it, maybe you couldn't travel to San Diego for whatever reason, but you wanted to work with me as your personal healer, coach, therapist, whatever, this is your chance to spend 3 complete days online as part of a group with me while I lead you through one healing process, one alchemical and transformation process after another, and you'll emerge on the other side completely different, completely transformed, with some powerful tools that you can use to continue moving your transformations forward. But most importantly, all you got to do is show up and let me work my mojo with you. Let me guide you through one process after another, after another, after another, so you can get the healings and the insights and the skills you need to live your best life. It's going to be online, so there's no travel involved. It will be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. all 3 days. It's a $1,497 value. And again, we'll teach you how to dissolve negativity you don't even know you have. We're going to teach you how to get rid of physical and emotional pain and suffering, how to resolve traumas, phobias, and self-sabotage, how to find out what truly gives your life meaning and purpose, how to train yourself to work on yourself going forward, how to put a dead stop halt to procrastination, destroy your limiting beliefs once and for all, and a whole lot more. Once again, this is not a certification class. This is you getting the help you need in the way you most need it from someone who's devoted their lives to helping people like you change and transform. I kind of look forward to this one every few months because I don't have to worry about whether you can replicate the skill sets I'm demonstrating. I get to kind of play the equivalent of jazz, hypnotherapeutically speaking. So if the idea of working personally with me appeals to you, I would recommend when would now be a good time to click that link. Total combined value on this is $15,629. Do the math, guys. Do the math. Okay? Go ahead and click that link. Let's review. What you're going to get the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course valued at $1,997. We're going to include absolutely free as part of your transformation super package, the Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design Home Study course valued at $1,497. We're going to give that to you free. We're going to give you the People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study course. That's body language secrets, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2 Home Study course, $1,997 value for free. You're going to get the 3-month trial membership to the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Archive, valued at $1,997 free. And you're going to get that VIP super ticket to the next 5-element Face Reading for Fun and Profit super training here in San Diego, December 13th to the 15th. It's a $3,150 value. This is a live event, guys. So I just want to put that out there, but we're going to give you the access to the training for free. And for those of you who are ready, October 11th to the 11th, 12th, 13th, oops, I got the dates wrong on that one. I think it's 11th to the 13th on there. It's going to be it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be the online virtual healing intensive with yours truly, you and part of a small group going through 3 days of one transformational process, one healing process after another, so that you can live and become the best version of yourself humanly possible. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give this to you absolutely free. Total value on this package is $15,629. You can get everything I've just talked about and all of our support, money back guarantee, for one low installment of just $997. Or if you want, you can break that up into 3 easy installments of $397 each. All you got to do is click the link that appears in your chat, nlppower.com/face. nlppower.com/FACE. So I want you to go ahead, click those links. We're going to take a 7-minute break. We're going to come back at 5:10 or 11, and we're going to pick up with part 3 of our webinar. We're going to go deeper into facial cues and characteristics. We're going to customize the content of tonight's face reading training to the exact applications and traits, qualities that you want to know more about. And we get to have fun for the rest of the time. So we'll see you at 5:10 Pacific, or in 7 minutes, 8 minutes, depending on how you look at it from now. Talk to you soon. Okay, guys, I'm back from my break. If you guys are back from your break and you have questions you'd like to answer, by all means, or like answers to, go ahead and type them in the chat. I'll take a couple minutes. And okay, so there's some questions regarding the events. So first and foremost, the thing about our VIP tickets, which is really cool, which I didn't actually mention earlier, is that they are tradable and they do not expire. So if you click the link right now and you get your package, but you can't come to face reading in December, well, you just pick up the phone and let us know, and we will move you to the next face reading training. If there's a different training that you want to go to, but the price points are the same, we will let you swap out that VIP ticket for that particular event. And that ticket is good until you actually use it. It does not have an expiration date. As long as you're in our VIP database as a ticket holder, then you can use that ticket for anything of an equal or lesser value, right? If you decide that maybe you've had a training, and so you don't want to come to the same training, but you'd like to maybe give it to a friend or a spouse or whatever, and you want to gift them your VIP ticket, you can do that. Okay. If between now and the next time you come to an event, the price of the event goes up and you're a VIP ticket holder, your price is locked in. You never pay a dime to sit in the front seat or to sit in any seat, as long as you have that ticket. If something comes up at the last minute and all of a sudden you can't attend an event, all you do is pick up the phone, let Mia or Moss know, and we will move you to another training. If a training is full and you have a VIP ticket and you all of a sudden your schedule frees up and you want to come, pick up the phone, let us know. We will make a seat for you at the training more often than not, right? As long as you're a VIP ticket holder, we'll do this for you. Yes, Julie, if you have some of the videos, I know you've bought packages from us in the past. If you see in this package a course that you already have, if you call Moss or Mia and let them know what you have, they will give you the option to substitute a different course as long as the price of that course is of equal or lesser value than the one you want to swap. Okay, so there's a lot of flexibility in our packaging. We try to make sure that everybody who invests in Planet David gets exactly what they need in the way that they need it, right? So we're very, very service oriented in that respect. All we ask is that if you call, please leave your contact information, right? Because if you call about the offer on tonight's webinar and you don't leave your contact information, you won't qualify for any of the bonuses, okay? And if you want to take advantage of the VIP ticket, the healing intensive, and the mastermind, you have to click that link before I log off the webinar tonight. That's why we call them fast action bonuses. They're only available to you while I'm physically logged in teaching this webinar. If you're watching this as a replay, you qualify for Defense Against the Dark Arts, you qualify for Identity by Design, you qualify for People Reading for Fun and Profit. You do not qualify for NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring. You do not qualify for Face Reading Level 2. You do not qualify for the VIP Super Ticket. You do not qualify for the extra virtual healing intensive. So if you click that link before I log off the webinar, you get the whole shebang, or as we like to say, the full Monty, right? And yes, you can substitute, and you don't need to come to the training in December. As long as you have that ticket, you can come to any training you're qualified for. Okay, so once again, click the link. Remember, it has a 60-day money-back guarantee. Payment plans are available. I would recommend you just go ahead and bite the bullet and get it. Click the links and get it out of the way, right? So I know who I'm dealing with over the next few months, and we'll build on that. Is the December also available virtually? There, about 50% of the time, Albana, we do offer a virtual option. We did for the last face reading class. So as of right now, we weren't really talking about offering a virtual option, but as we get closer to the event, I would keep an eye out for the possibility of a virtual. Whether you come virtually or in person, it's still going to cost your VIP ticket, right? We would much rather have you in the room than not, but there probably will be a virtual option available for those of you who don't want to make the long, perilous journey to San Diego and be in a room, locked in a room with me for 3 solid days. Okay. All right. Okay, let me move this over. And this is where it gets fun. Oops, sorry. That didn't work out quite the way I planned it. That's all right. All right, guys. It's your webinar. What do you want to know about? Type it in the chat. Wendy says she's coming from Australia. Well, by all means, come on in, girl. Good to see you. What do you guys want to know about? You guys want to continue with the emotions? You have other applications that you want to talk about? We're now in the process of your webinar. What do you want to know about? My skill set, your applications. So Lisa's asking, please, electromagnetic energy to manifest. Stella, re-ask your question, sweetie. Heart energy. The second flash you see in the person's face. Okay, and guys need to ask me better, clearer questions because these questions are very vague, guys. I need something very specific. You give me a specific question. Samantha's asking nose and genitalia size relation, male versus female. Okay, you asked for it. The nose is about half the circumference of the genital, male or female. You asked, I gave it to you. There it is. So yes, I know stuff about your junk that you don't want me knowing. Lisa's asking, open heart trust trigger, how to use electromagnetic energy to manifest and how to stay in that state so people respond to you in a loving way. Okay, first of all, Lisa, that's 2 separate questions and it's 2 separate applications. Okay, so if you're talking about manifesting, which again is not a face reading question, but okay, all right. If you're going to do the open heart trust trigger, then you have to build up the electromagnetic charge in your field, right? That's done through Qigong, meditation, energetic practices, okay, which I don't have time to show here, but if you come to Vibrational Influence or Unleashing the Magic in 2025, or you join the Energy Mastery Coaching Program that I'm going to be launching in the next few months, you'll learn how to build your field and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay. How to stay in the state so people respond to you in a loving way is based on your ability to maintain the posture, the breathing, and the frequency. So it has to start with having a posture and a breathing pattern that generates a loving, playful, enfolding energy and spending as much time as you can embodying that state. Now, when people first start doing this, they're going to adopt the physiology, and the state's going to engage, and then the state usually has a half-life, anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the level of emotional arousal, the environment you're in, things of that nature. And so you're going to need to keep reactivating the state and practicing moving through the world and staying in that state for longer and longer and longer periods of time. Right? There's a set of practices and drills that we teach in dark arts, that we teach in Killer Influence, CPI, to do specifically that, so that you spend longer and longer and longer time in the state of your choice. Right? There's a training protocol for that. Right? We don't have time to do it on the webinar. I wouldn't do it on the webinar anyway, because those are kind of proprietary. They're not things that we give to the general public. Okay, so hopefully that answers those 2 questions. So Niam is it? How do I pronounce your name? Is it Naomi? Or Niam or Nia? How do I pronounce your name, sweet? I know it's Irish, but I don't know how to exactly pronounce it. So I don't want to keep pronouncing it wrong. It's like you meet a stranger, but see if, oh, okay. All right. So the flash that I think you're talking about is called the eyebrow flash. Now this is a face reading practice, but this takes us from what we call passive profiling into active profiling. So when I look at body language, human behavior, reading the face, things of that nature, I divide things into 2 basic categories. You have passive traits and you have active traits. So the best way I can teach you to distinguish that is how many of you, by a show of hands, have heard of a guy named Paul Ekman? Right? Just type it in the chat if you've heard of him. If you haven't heard of Paul Ekman, how many of you have heard of a show called Lie to Me? For those of you who've heard of the show Lie to Me, I highly recommend you watch all 3 seasons of that show. Paul Ekman was the consultant, and there's a lot of really good, cool stuff in there. That is actually true. Towards the end of the series, they started taking more and more liberties, which is why Dr. Ekman left the show, because they were moving away from things that were true. But the first couple of seasons had some really valuable information on micro expressions, body languaging, proxemic orientation, hip contact, things of that nature that was really, really useful. But one of the things that Dr. Ekman was famous for was his discovery that when human beings are communicating, they're trying to manage emotions below the threshold of conscious awareness in real time. And every now and then, an emotion they're trying to suppress leaks out. So micro expressions are facial cues that happen in the moment during an interaction. They're very active. And those are traits and characteristics that allow you to determine when somebody is actively suppressing or misrepresenting an emotion or state. Passive profiling are the things we've talked about in tonight's webinar. A line across a skepticism line, a joy line, a sadness line, a lost love, impatience and annoyance lines. These are a consequence of a lifetime of microexpressions. Ones you were conscious of, ones you've consciously learned, and ones you've unconsciously learned. So when we look at these things, the eyebrow flash, often referred to as the unconscious hello, is a microexpression, but it's a very obvious one. And it's also really in anthropology, I think, or zoology. I can't remember exactly which science it is. I think it's zoology. It's known as a key stimuli. Key stimuli are instinctive, hardwired neurological responses that every time the stimulus is present, that trait fires. So, for example, there is a particular species of bird that has a white dot on its feathers right at the throat. And that bird will go out and it will hunt for food, and it'll eat, and then it'll come back to its nest, and the little chick in the nest will reach into the nest, pull out a little twig in its beak, and poke that white spot on the parent bird, and the parent bird will actually regurgitate the food it has consumed so the baby can eat. It's kind of gross, right? But all mammals have specific key stimuli that they respond to. The one that Samantha is talking about is known as an eyebrow flash. So every mammal on the planet, when they approach another mammal, is going to look to the eyes and go in some form. Depending on the culture, depending on the part of the world you're in, that it can be a very slight, or it can be, hey, how you doing? Right? Depending on where you're at. But what will happen is, in that moment when those two people make eye contact, one person is signaling, are you a friend or not? Are you friendly or not? If the person generates the eyebrow flash and the person immediately returns the eyebrow flash, that sends a friendship signal. And so rapport starts to accelerate and deepen. If the person sends the eyebrow flash and the person does not respond, rapport slows down, approaching slows down, and people become much more guarded and much more defensive. If the person flashes the eye, and rather than an eyebrow flash going up or nothing happening, those eyes start to condense, the eyebrows start to condense, right? You now have signs of aggression. And now rapport will back up, and so will the distance. The microexpression, the eyebrow flash, is one of the most powerful and important body language triggers, as well as profiling tools that we have, but it's active. It happens in the moment. But it doesn't, and you can do it intentionally at key points in an interaction to amplify rapport, to become more flirtatious, and to ease social anxiety, right? But as a profiler, you have to become aware of the speed with which that eyebrow flash is either sent to you or it's returned. So I hope that answers the question. So Stella's asking, what is a vertical line on both sides of the face, mid-face down to the jawline? You mean from here down? If it's that line, I was taught that that's some kind of stress or exhaustion. So when you have dimples, that's usually a sign of extra fire, charm, or charisma. So Neov? Okay. Thank you, Neov. Albana is asking how to recognize dangerous features on a face or body, signs that tell me to run away and save myself. Well, start with compressed eyebrows. I have to be careful with some of the things I'm about to show you, but I did promise you I would teach you some things that I don't normally teach. So if you'll give me a moment, I have to find the manual. I will show you some things to be wary of. God, I hope I can find this really quick. This would be in face reading, my face reading level 2 manual. Hold on a second. Just please be patient. Oops. All right, I'm not going to be able to, in the time that we have, I'm not going to be able to search for everything and not have you guys bored off your butt. So there are some traits that when I'm teaching face reading, and especially for those of you who are therapists or coaches who are going to deal with marriage and family and social workers, things of that nature, there's 3 sets of traits that I want you to start to look for. First one is on our emotional map. So let me show you that one first. So the trait that I want you guys to be aware of that can be problematic is right here. See where it says disempowerment? If you see somebody that has these wrinkles that go diagonally down the side of the nose, so literally, if this is, oops, that's horrible. Sorry about that. So if this is the person's nose, this is their eyebrow, right? If you see diagonal lines that travel down the side of that nose, right? What you're looking at is something my teacher called a disempowerment line. Now, I don't really like that term. And the reason I don't like it is because it does not really encompass what the behavior and the genesis of that line entail. So, how many of you, by a show of hands, have ever seen a sitcom called All in the Family? Archie Bunker, Edith Bunker. One thing at a time, guys. How many of you have seen that? Okay. Okay, so in that show, you have one of the most bigoted white guys on the planet, Archie Bunker, right? And his wife, Edith, is always trying to placate Archie. It's okay, Archie, I'll make it better. Just don't get angry. Don't get upset, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Remember when I was talking about the suspended needle? That this line was caused by someone getting angry and losing their temper at somebody and acting out in a way that they got punished for? These lines are also the result of anger. They're the result of a person having their boundaries violated physically, mentally, or emotionally, getting angry and pushing back. However, when they pushed back, the person they were pushing back against pushed back even harder. And for some reason, this person's defenses crumbled. And rather than continue to fight back, they lapsed into appeasement. Okay, whatever you want, just don't hurt me. And from that moment forward, anytime the perpetrator would push on a boundary and the person would give up, would push back, they knew they just have to push a little bit more, and the person would do whatever they wanted. So you'll see this many times in people who've gone through some form of domestic abuse, some form of situation where when they tried to fight back, they either didn't have the courage, they lacked the strength, and the only way to get through that was to give the person whatever they wanted. You'll start to see those markings come out. So the suspended needle or sword is a result of being punished for expressing anger and then deciding never to get that angry again, never to lose control like that again. Disempowerment lines, or as I like to call them, appeasement lines, are the result of somebody getting angry, trying to protect their boundaries, the person pushing back even more, and then giving the person whatever they want to appease them. Now, there's two more traits that I want to talk about. Before I do, I want to go ahead and remind you of the package that we've got for you. All the stuff I'm talking about is in this package and more, but let's go ahead and just review that really, really quickly. Okay, so hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so for those of you who have been on the fence, this is what I got for you. Or if you've joined us late, our webinar package for today, and half of these bonuses go away when I log off the webinar. So share. You're going to get the Secrets of Face Reading Home Study course valued at $1,997. You're going to get Defense Against the Dark Arts Home Study course valued at $1,997. We're going to give that to you absolutely free. Remember that this was the #1 NLP training course in the world for 2022 and 2023. Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design Hypnotherapy Home Study course for those of you who want to make a little extra money helping people. This will be a really good money funnel for you. It's a $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the People Reading for Fun and Profit Home Study course, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the 3-month NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Trial Membership plus the 13-year archive, $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2 Home Study course, which is some of the techniques and the traits that I'm about to talk about in the end part of this webinar actually come from this course rather than Level 1. Is a $1,997 value. And then, of course, you're going to get the VIP Super Ticket for Face Reading Live, December 13th through the 15th, and then the Virtual Healing Intensive coming up in October. I believe it's 11th through the 14th, or 13th rather. I tried so hard not to make a typo. Oh well. 11th through the 13th, sorry. And that's going to be here in San Diego. Or actually, this will be virtual, so I'll be in San Diego, you'll be somewhere else, right? Total value on this package, if you were to buy them individually on the website, and by the way, you can't, because the Virtual Healing Web Intensive is not offered on our events page on our webinar. The only place you can get access to 3 days of me healing you and helping you heal yourself is through this webinar. So it's a $1,497 value. We're going to give it to you free. as long as you click that link before I log off the webinar, guys. Remember, when I click off the webinar, the fast action bonuses go away. Okay, and all you need to do is click the link, invest $9.97 or 3 easy installments of $3.97 each, and just click the link, click the link, click the link, nlppower.com / oops, screwed that up. Anyway, / face. Let me go ahead and just move this down here really quick. I really don't like PowerPoint, in case you guys haven't figured that out. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. All right. The next 2 traits I want to talk about, I have to be very, very careful, because it's very easy for the things I say to get misconstrued. Okay? Remember that no facial characteristic by itself is 100% indicative of anything, although it's not quite as liberal as like regular body language. Most of your facial characteristics are pretty solid. But one of the things I want you to really pay attention to when you're looking for people who might be potential problems is around the mouth. Flaccidity of the lips is indicative of flaccidity and softness of boundaries. Okay. So if you're looking at a female, and this, again, this is how I was taught, this is how it was explained to me in Lillian's book. Please take it in the spirit in which it's being offered. Women who have very permissive or very malleable, non-existent sexual or romantic boundaries often have a very flaccid upper lip. In fact, if you ever look at some, I hate to use this as a metaphor, if you look at like pictures of porn stars, or a lot of models used to adopt this kind of a pucker, that loose lip. When that's occurring naturally, these tend to be people whose sensual boundaries are permeable. Now, I don't know if social predators instinctively recognize that, but a lot of people who are molested or victims of the hashtag thing, they have that lip, or they spend a lot of time creating that lip configuration. Okay. Now, corollary to that, in males, and I could actually show you some pictures of very well-known sex offenders who have this marking. If the lower lip is very flaccid, the lower lip in males is very flaccid, like their mouth never fully closes, or you can see their teeth or whatever. This indicates somebody who is prone, or who may be prone, to violating sexual romantic boundaries. They may not interpret cues that are not definitive as a no. And I've looked at Weinstein, and I've looked at a couple of the other guys. They have this lip. They have this lip. Okay. So women on the top, men on the bottom. Okay. If you've got someone with a very flaccid upper lip where their mouth never fully closes, even when they're trying to, and you've got these appeasement lines, you've got someone who's probably not only been abused or molested or had their boundaries violated, but is probably a #1 target for those kinds of behaviors. Okay. Is that helpful? Is that useful? Any feedback, folks? Yeah. Well, again, it is scary, but remember, forewarned is forearmed, right? If you can read their face and you see certain markings, at the very least, you know to have extra filters up. right? One of the things that I loved about Lillian so much was that she tried to make every aspect of face reading as loving and positive and compassionate as humanly possible. Face reading, as most people learn it, is an extremely pessimistic discipline. They spend more time telling you all the shit that's fucked up about you than the good things. And Lillian made a really concerted effort to balance that, right? And I think it was the way to go. Because people, when you start to read their faces and you start to unpack these things and bring these things to light, they're vulnerable, they're sensitive, they're desperate for, they want the truth. They don't want you to necessarily lie to them, but they want the truth in a way that's positive and that gives them hope, right? And the Chinese language, for whatever reason, has a deficit of positive ways of expressing things. It's just one of those weird things. But I hope that answers the what to look for questions. There's other things we could talk about, but those are the big ones when I'm looking at people that are likely to be abused or who are likely to abuse. Albina says you'll have a boot camp on self-defense. Will there be a webinar package for that? I never thought anybody would want one. How many people know about the self-defense supercharger coming up in October? Just type it in the chat if you do. Okay. So if you go to this page, there's a little there's a page that explains everything. And if you want to use your VIP ticket for that event, I'll actually let you do that. Right? But you got to buy the package to use the VIP ticket. Okay. So admit audacious. I needed to rebuild all these boundaries after trauma and PTSD. I'm going to give you one more trait, and this is for the healers in the room. One of the things that you'll see, and I think for this I do need to find my manual, so give me just a minute. Okay, here we go. For those of you who are looking for signs of trauma, aside from what I've just talked about, let's look at this. Okay, so this is this is excerpt from the Face Reading for Fun and Profit manual, level 1. So one of the things that we can talk a lot about is eyelids. So one of the things that I want to, in terms of trauma, when somebody undergoes trauma, the eyelid will start to droop. And it'll start to create a triangular shape to the eye. So when we look at people who've gone through trauma, we can start to pick it out by the shapes of the eyes. Here again, you can see, let me move this up a little bit. Can you see the triangular contour? Here again. Notice the triangular pattern. In the eye. This one's a little pixelated, so. But if you look, you can see that same triangular shape to the eye. I got overwhelmed. This is too much of a rush. Okay, so you see that the face reading manual is pretty, it goes into some pretty deep stuff. So for healers, managers, therapists, coaches, this is something that can significantly help your practice, right? Any other questions or things you want to see or know about? The bunny lies? What's a bunny lie, Nia? Lines on the nose. Oh, those are the disempowerment lines. That was yeah. Hold on, let me find it again. Yeah, these are your bunny lines right here. Vertical lines on the length of the nose. Stella, I'd have to see those. I don't know vertical lines on the length of the nose. Do you mean on the top of the nose, or I'm not sure what we're talking about? Okay, so I know what you're referring to, Julie. What is it your take on no lines under the eyes, meaning you've been a part of the cult? That's something that Chase came up with, and I have absolutely no evidence one way or another that that's true. There have been people whose eyes I've looked at who've been in cults, and their eyes are not smooth. So it's like any behavioral trait. I think you have to really have a large population to figure out how true that is. Eyebrows on top of the nose with a curve. Yeah, I have no idea what that means. That's from Botox. Okay, let me look at my YouTubers and see what's going on with those folks. Lottie is asking, how to avoid triggers of negative emotional flash and suggest a task we might do without so much over upsetting guesswork. Okay, Lottie, can you kind of clarify that question? Firestarter Man is talking about, is he talking about the happy wrinkles? No, I'm not talking about happy wrinkles. Like a flashback, Yoda Mind says, any lines for possible cheater, or is that different? I do not. I would, for potential cheaters, I would look at the lower, depending on if it's male or female, I would look at the lower lip. If it's very big and very flaccid, good chance that they might do something like that if presented with an opportunity. If they are if they're very fiery, high on the dopaminergic scale, these people tend to be very sensation seeking, and so they might be more prone to extracurricular romances than people who are a little bit more traditional or conservative. Certainly, every elemental type has the capacity to step out, but they usually step out for different reasons. Okay, so we talk about horizontal lines between the eyebrows. I've yet to see a horizontal line between the eyebrow. So when you talk about a horizontal between the eyebrow, I assume that you're talking about something that looks like this. Okay, I've never seen one of those. In all the faces I've looked at, I haven't seen a line like that that either wasn't related to Jing depletion. Oh, lower? Oh, so you mean something that's like right here? That I see all the time. That I see all the time. So when you're seeing a line that's lower on the eye, that's right here, what you're looking at is somebody who is prone to one of several things, or both. It's usually some form of blood sugar issue. So they either have high blood pressure, blood sugar, low blood sugar, or erratic blood sugar. If you see that marking, and they also have part of their eyebrow missing, like a very short eyebrow. Now you're looking at somebody who probably has some kind of subtle or diagnosed thyroid issue going on. Okay, so a shortened or an eyebrow that fades off combined with this usually indicates a thyroid issue of some kind. If it's just this, it can be blood sugar, erratic blood sugar, hypo or hyper, or it can be something related to the earth element, spleen or pancreas, which is usually trust issues, lack of sweetness in their life, not feeling fulfilled in their life, things related to that. What else you got? Like I said, this is your training, so you tell me what you want to know about. Bill, full of love, says Diddy has the lower lip sign big time. Ooh. All right. Lottie Martin. So if equal member of a team has a tendency to get over emotional, then I feel over emotional. The keeping away from the emotions while trying to do a task. Okay. So Lottie, when you start to become emotional, when other people become emotional, that's a sympathetic response. You need to physically and emotionally step back, change your posture, change your breathing, and hold it. And then when you're by yourself, you need to unpack the things that triggered you so that you're no longer triggered by them. Admit Audacity is asking, hypothyroidism stole my eyebrow. Yes. Yes, it will. Can you remove disappointment lines? Yes, you can. Get rid of the thing that's disappointing you. Or unpack the emotions connected to it, and those markings will start to fade. But you're going to need to make a lifestyle change if the reason behind those disappointment lines is related to your lifestyle. If you're not willing to make the lifestyle change, there's only so far you can get. Vertical lines on the side that I asked for V prominent on both sides, curving in. So I'm going to have to see it. But a lot of times if you get lines that are kind of coming down and framing the chin, Lillian often expressed that as a fear of death or fear of getting old. I have no way to corroborate that one way or the other. Samantha says, good to know, took part of my eyebrow too. Yeah. I can, it's fairly accurate. But those two traits usually have to show up together to really be strongly indicative of potential thyroid. It doesn't mean if you just have one of those markings that your thyroid isn't out of kilter. But I'm far more certain of a diagnosis from a Chinese medical perspective when both of those cues are present. So Albina is asking, when speaking to the left, the top lid stays flat and does not move, and only the upper right lip moves. Do you have some kind of wind stroke? or neurological damage that caused that? Samantha saying full-blown Hashimoto's here. Okay. We might be able to do some stuff about that. Lottie says kind of overgiving people, I notice, have more lines. Yes. When you have somebody who's a chronic overgiver, you're going to see a lot of lines. Let me erase this really quick. The lines that show up are here. These are called over-nurturing lines. And if this goes on long enough and people don't give back, it leads to disappointment. And after the disappointment mounts to a certain level, they start to get bitter. Now, any of these by themselves is usually not good. When they start to show up together, now you have a recipe for a chronic illness or a terminal one, mostly usually cancer. But you'll see, one of the things you'll see when you get your course is this area of the face corresponds very, very strongly with the lower part of the body, specifically the intestines, the stomach, the urogenital region. And so a lot of times these people will have IBS, they'll have Crohn's disease, irritable bowel. What's the other one? Chronic flatulence is not uncommon for these people because there's a lot of stagnation and repressed emotion being locked in the intestines. Intestines will be very dry, so you might see constipation or diarrhea. Okay. Now we're getting into the medical side of things, but the emotions and the energetics of the system feed off of each other. So why is it better to use a left eye when looking at someone? I think it has something to do with hemispheric dominance, Stella, more than anything else. Because our left eye is controlled by the right hemisphere, we tend to perceive the world a little bit more holistically through that lens. Instead of finding what we're looking for, we see what's actually there. So Samantha says, I took care of my mom for a long time and I still can't get rid of those top two lines. She passed a couple years ago. I wish they would go away. Sarah or Samantha, you may need to do some therapeutic work on that. Start with the transformational triad and bucket listing. If you need to, go and watch our seminar, How to Reprogram the Subconscious Mind, and do all the steps in that video. If you still need help, call our office and set up a consult with me or Moss, and we'll help you work on that. Edie Hayes is saying a horizontal line between the nose and the lip is usually fertility issues. This person has a block, usually in the uterus or in the sometimes the fallopian tubes, but it's usually a Jing issue. There's some kind of deficiency or blockage that needs to be resolved. Is the best way to remove intestinal issues through hypnosis and or regression? A lot of studies show that it is a very powerful way to remove those things because the intestines are an extremely emotional organ, and they often take the emotional load from other organs who are more sensitive. So I'm going to give you a qualified, definite maybe on that because I have to be careful what I say in environments like this. Samantha says, thank you. Admit says, trauma stopped my thyroid completely. Well, if trauma stopped it, then we might have a chance to restart it, but you might want to reach out to us and see where that takes you. Stevie Wonder sees me. What about the lines underneath the eyes that start from the sclera It's not the lost low lines. Okay, from the sclera, there are no lines that start from the sclera that I'm aware of. Stevie, if you can send me a picture or something, I can give you an idea. Jennifer O is asking, what about adults who don't have fixed lines that only show when they have expressions? Also, if a person is left eye dominant, does that change how they should assess their face? You know, that is a really good question, Jennifer. And the honest answer is I don't know. I don't know with regards to that. Test it and see if it changes how you read people. The other one, adults who don't have fixed lines. My experience with that has been people who don't have fixed lines when they're not expressing an emotion fall into one of several categories. They either don't feel things as strongly, they process emotions very quickly, or they're a little on the sociopathic spectrum. Okay, so what you'll notice is that, at least in Planet David, it's true. The majority of people who do a lot of identity by design and regression and clearing work on themselves tend to look younger than the people who don't, because they're processing that stuff out all the time. The people who are constantly helping other people clear their shit but aren't focused on clearing their own usually wind up looking older, right? Because they're not only are they not dealing directly with their emotional toxicity, they're also getting the remnants of the shit that they're clearing. And this is also why we created the package the way we did, because if you're going to start opening up people's hearts and minds and seeing what's in there, you've got to know how to clean your own shit up. You've got to know how to clean their shit up. You've got to know how to manage those relationships so you get the most from the tool, right? That's about all we got time for. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a last call for tonight's webinar offer. Once again, for those of you who enjoyed this, please like and share. When the replay of this video goes live, if I did not answer your question or you want a deeper answer, go to the comments section underneath this video when it goes live, type in your question, and I'm happy to type you an answer. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you that too. So here's what you get. Click that link right now before it's too late, before all the spots are gone. Secrets of Face Reading Home Study Course, $1,997 value. You're also going to get the Defense Against the Dark Arts, world's #1 NLP training program for the last 2 years. It's a $1,997 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the Real World Hypnosis Identity by Design Home Study Course, valued at $1,497. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get People Reading for Fun and Profit, Home Study Course, $1,497 value. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the NLP Power Mastermind Mentoring Trial and 13-year video archive, $1,997 value. You're going to get that for free. You're going to get the Face Reading for Fun and Profit Level 2, valued at $1,497 or $1,997. We're going to give that to you free. We're going to give you the VIP super ticket to our next 5-element face reading program, valued at $3,150. We're going to give that to you free. You're going to get the VIP super ticket to the special 3-day virtual healing intensive, October 11th through the 13th, 2024. And you can do that from your home. By all means, please click those links in the chat to reserve your spot. Total value on this package is $15,629, guys. If you click that link, you can get it all for just one low installment of $997. 858-282-4663 is the customization phone number. Or you can break that down into 3 easy installments of $397 each. Just click those links right now, www.nlppower.com/face. My other me says you can also text. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please click those links before it's too late. Remember, when I log off the webinar, Face Reading 2 goes away, Mastermind program goes away, Face Reading Live goes away, Virtual Healing Intensive goes away. If you're on the fence, click that link. You got 60 days to fly it. If it works for you, you're golden. If it doesn't, you get your money back. I love you all. It's been fun. I love this stuff. It changes my life. It changes my understanding of humans every time I teach it. In the words of the immortal Carol Burnett, I'm so glad we had this time together just to have a laugh or sing a song. Seems we just got started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. Good night, my friends. I love you all.